Okay. We just read Genesis 12. So, now we move on to the Book of Abraham. I will do the facsimiles as their own video, and I don't know, right now my technology is kind of kaput, so adding images is difficult, but I will see what I can do on that point. Here we go. The Book of Abraham, translated from the papyrus by Joseph Smith, a translation of some ancient records that have fallen into our hands from the catacombs of Egypt. The writings of Abraham while he was in Egypt, called the Book of Abraham, written by his own hand upon papyrus. See History of the Church, Volume 2, pages 235, 236, and then 348 through 351. Okay, so that's the introduction. Here we go. Chapter 1. Abraham seeks the blessings of the patriarchal order. He is persecuted by false priests in Chaldea. Jehovah saves him. Origins and government of Egypt reviewed. This is somewhat of a long one. We'll see how it goes. In the land of the Chaldeans, at the residence of my fathers, I, Abraham, saw that it was needful for me to obtain another place of residence. And finding there was greater happiness and peace and rest for me, I sought for the blessings of the fathers, and the right whereunto I should be ordained to administer the same, having been myself a follower of righteousness, desiring also to be one who possessed great knowledge, and to be a greater follower of righteousness, and to possess a greater knowledge, and to be a father of many nations, a prince of peace, and desiring to receive instructions and to keep the commandments of God, I became a rightful heir, a high priest, holding the right belonging to the fathers. Now, this is very interesting. We know that Abraham was blessed to be the father of many nations. He obviously had great knowledge, but this is stating that God didn't just pick Abraham out. He wasn't some random guy that God grabbed and said, okay, let's make a covenant with. No, Abraham had learned the truth. And as I said in previous videos, in the Book of Jasher, we read that he was taught by Noah and Shem. He went and lived with Noah and Shem for a good part of his early years, and he learned the truth. And he sought those blessings. He didn't just seek the priesthood. He sought knowledge. He sought to be the father of many nations. And that last statement here, I became a rightful heir, a high priest, holding the right belonging to the fathers. That right is the birthright, the patriarchal order, the patriarchal authority. This was handed down from Adam, coming down. Abraham knew that he was next in line, or he knew that he was a descendant of the covenant line. And even though his father, and possibly his grandfather, had fallen away and became seduced by false priests, he knew that he had a right to it because of his lineage. Sorry, we got an ambulance over there. Anyways, so the right of the fathers is the patriarchal order, the birthright. And Abraham knew, because of his lineage and because he was righteous, he was a follower of God, and so he sought for that blessing of the patriarchal order. He sought for that authority, and he was given that authority. So, we continue, verse 3. And it was conferred upon me from the fathers. It came down from the fathers from the beginning of time, yea, even from the beginning, or before the foundation of the earth, down to the present time, even the right of the firstborn, or the first man, who is Adam, or first father, through the fathers unto me. Again, this is just a continuing on describing this birthright. Verse 4. I sought for mine appointment unto the priesthood, according to the appointment of God unto the fathers concerning the seed, My fathers, having turned from their righteousness, and from the holy commandments which the Lord their God had given unto them, unto the worshipping of the gods of the heathen, utterly refused to hearken to my voice. For their hearts were set to do evil, and were wholly turned to the god of Elkanah, and the god of Libnah, and the god of Mamachra, and the god of Korash, and the god of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Therefore they turned their hearts to the sacrifice of the heathen in offering up their children unto these dumb idols, and hearkened not unto my voice, but endeavored to take away my life by the hand of the priest of Elkanah, the priest of Elkanah, who was also the priest of Pharaoh. So here we have, he says the fathers, meaning it was probably 2 or 3 generations. His father was Terah. His father was Nehor. His father was Nehor. And it could also be referencing his uncles. They would also be referred to, anybody in the previous generation would be referred to as the fathers. But Abraham is preaching to his own family. He is trying to get his father and his grandfather and his uncles to repent. But they are stuck in their worship of the heathen gods to the point of sacrificing children to idols. And this continues, verse 8. Now at this time it was the custom of the priest of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to offer up upon the altar which was built in the land of Chaldea for the offering unto these strange gods, men, women, and children. And it came to pass that the priest made an offering unto the god of Pharaoh, and also unto the god of Shagreel, even after the manner of the Egyptians. Now the god of Shagreel was the sun. Even the thank offering of a child did the priest of Pharaoh offer upon the altar which stood by the hill called Potiphar's Hill, at the head of the plain of Olishem. Now this priest had offered upon this altar 3 virgins at one time, who were the daughters of Onita, one of the royal descent directly from the loins of Ham. These virgins were offered up because of their virtue. They would not bow down to worship gods of wood or stone. Therefore they were killed upon the altar, and it was done after the manner of the Egyptians. Now I want to point out a couple things. So this is the manner of the Egyptians. We have Egypt is down in Africa. It's on the northern end of Africa, but it's still in Africa. Ur of the Chaldees, the land of Chaldea that Abraham is talking about, most likely was in the eastern portion of Turkey, or possibly what is now northern Palestine, that area. So the influence of the Egyptians had spread significantly by this time. But I also note that these 3 virgins, they are the descent of Ham. Now we know that the descent of Ham, and we will read about this a little bit later, but the descent of Ham was cursed by Noah through Canaan, and they were the cursed race. But these are still righteous people, because God accepts everybody, no matter what. If you're righteous, He will accept you. And I'll have to come back to this in a minute. It comes out a little more later in this chapter, and I gotta wait till we get to it before I make my full comments. Verse 12. And it came to pass that the priests laid violence upon me, that they might slay me also, as they did those virgins upon this altar. And that you may have a knowledge of this altar, I will refer you to the representation at the commencement of this record. That would be referring to facsimile number 1. It was made after the form of a bedstead, such as was had among the Chaldeans. And it stood before the gods of Elkanah, Libnah, Mamachra, Korash, and also a god like unto that of Pharaoh king of Egypt. That ye may have an understanding of these gods, I have given you the fashion of them in the figures at the beginning, which manner of figures is called by the Chaldeans Ralinos, which signifies hieroglyphics. And as they lifted up their hands upon me, that they might offer me up and take away my life, behold, I lifted up my voice unto the Lord my God, and the Lord hearkened and heard, and He filled me with the vision of the Almighty, and the angel of His presence stood by me, and immediately unloosed my bands. And His voice was unto me, Abram, Abraham, Abraham, behold, my name is Jehovah, and I have heard thee, and have come down to deliver thee, and to take thee away from thy father's house, and from all thy kinsfolk, into a strange land which thou knowest not of. And this because they have turned their hearts away from me, to worship the God of Elkanah, and the God of Libnah, and the God of Mamachra, and the God of Korash, and the God of Pharaoh king of Egypt. Therefore I have come down to visit them, and to destroy him who hath lifted up his hand against thee, Abraham, my son, to take away thy life. Behold, I will lead thee by my hand, and I will take thee to put upon thee my name. Even the priesthood of thy father, and my power shall be over thee. And as it was with Noah, so shall it be with thee. But through thy ministry my name shall be known in the earth forever, for I am thy God. Now, just a few quick comments here. He gives a description of the altar. He does give us facsimile number 1, which I will do in a separate video. But this is the story This, I think, is when Abraham actually got ordained to the priesthood, or when he received the birthright, when it was conferred upon him, because you have that, I will lead thee by my hand, take thee to put upon thee my name, even the priesthood of thy father. This is where God is saying, yes, you will have this birthright. Now, these wicked priests were going to sacrifice the virgins because they wouldn't bow down to their idols. They were going to sacrifice Abraham for the same reason. But God is here. When they got Abraham strapped to the altar, Abraham prays. He calls upon God, and he hears God. The angel comes, and he hears God's voice. And God's voice is promising to not only deliver him, but give him all these blessings. Now, this is one thing. This is where I have referenced the Book of Jasher before, and I'll probably make a separate video talking about the Book of Jasher to some extent. But the Book of Jasher being an apocryphal work, we can't take it as doctrine. It's not scripture. There are some things in it that I like that I think probably are true. But there are a lot of things that aren't true, that we know aren't true because they're a contradiction of the scriptures. And the story of Abraham is one of them. So we got to be careful about looking at the book, about any apocryphal work. But I'm going to leave it there. We will get a second video on this chapter talking about finishing out the story of Abraham's deliverance and a few other details. So see you in the next one.